How should a reality show producer deal with their editor?
Reality show producers and editors, it's been a long-standing sort of an uneasy alliance in some cases because editors very often feel that the responsibility for the show lies with them. Story producers sometimes feel the show lies with them, and different companies support the notion that the editor is more important than the story producer, and others that the story producer is more important than the editor. I think that everybody's on equal footing because a great idea can come from anywhere. And if you've ever worked on a show with me, the way that I deal with editors is I'll go into the room, I'll pass along whatever my rough string out of the material is, or if we're really blazing ahead and we don't have time for me to do a string out, then I'll give them the notes and say, these are the things that are most important to accomplish in this scene. This is what it should look like. This is the texture. This is what it should feel like. And then I leave. And I wait for the editor to have something to show me. There are other producers who will sit in the back of the room on a laptop and eat their lunch and call their friends and do whatever it is. Editors hate that. Being watched drives them bananas. It takes longer because they're constantly stopping and going back to show something to you again. And they really don't need you to say, can you back that up 3 frames? Can you do this? Can you do this? That's what a notes pass is for later. So I would suggest to any story producer, one of the best things you can do, and if you want to build a relationship with an editor, is know how to give them information to be available to them and to get out of the way. Because what that also does is it frees you up to work on the material for them that's coming after what you've just given them. In order to run a show efficiently, you have to always be a few steps ahead of your editing staff, and you can't be if you're sitting behind them in the room, watching them make cuts and basically operating them like a remote control.
What if you have a tendency to micromanage? Then how would you handle that?
There are people who have a tendency to micromanage. Some editors don't mind so much and are a lot more collaborative. It's very rare to have someone who says, boy, I sure wish I could find somebody who is just going to loom over me every second while I'm putting this together. Micromanagers, what they should realize is that you're going to blow deadlines if you're not letting people move forward at an appropriate pace. I understand that you may be responsible for a show. I understand that something may be very important to you to be able to get this done the way you see it or you have the vision for the show. But you've got to allow people to run the ball a little bit before you correct them, because it tends to create a little bit of animosity, especially when you're working with people who are already established and accomplished and have done well. If you're micromanaging a team that's fairly green, I get it. But if you've got an editor that's been working for 20 years and a story team that's been working for 10 to 15, you don't need to be double checking their work before it even happens.
And you say that writers should know how to edit with Avid or Final Cut Pro or Adobe.
We've gotten to the point where even in just the few years since my book has been out, we've really moved towards a thing where my story producers tend to have access to an Avid now, as opposed to using Pilotware or some of the other review things that we used to use, some of the other software where we would be able to review the material and then create a paper edit that we would then pass on to the editors that they would assemble. Now we're just on Avids putting together rough cuts of the scenes ourselves. If you want to be in reality television as a story producer, you absolutely must have a basic working knowledge of Avid or Final Cut Pro at this stage of the game, because you will be asked to do those string outs for the editors. You'll be asked to go through material to find support content for those editors, and if you don't know how to use those, you're dead. It's just another tool. The typewriter gave way to the computer, and the computer gave way to the Avid.